beaming across the eastern townships from the heart of Brome-Missisquoi. This is 99.1 CITI.
Hello and welcome to The Alternatives. You have choices. I'm your host, Ilya Kavukis, and this show is brought to you by the Sunshinecenter in Sutton, an alternative health center where we offer all kinds of therapies to help people deal with their life and stress and whatever else comes at them. Today, I have an amazing guest whose name is Norman Paswak. Is that correct?
It's very close. It is correct. Yeah. My name is Norman Paswak.
Paswak. It's not Paswak, it's Paswak. Okay, thank you so much, Norman. And welcome to our show. Thank you for coming today. One of the reasons we're having you on today is because we are setting up the workshop that's on the 21st of January called the Nonviolent Communication Workshop with your lovely wife, Gina Sensiosi. Sensiosi. I'm having troubles with names today. And we want to talk about nonviolent communication. So let's just dive right into this wonderful topic and explain to our listeners, what is it exactly, nonviolent communication?
Well, that's a big question. Nonviolent communication was developed by Marshall Rosenberg, I think back in the 60s. I think he calls it nonviolent communication because it's an attempt to stay connected in a way that reduces the chance of violence in life. And so it sounds like, and maybe even started out as, in a sense, a communication technique, but it's evolved and it's turned out to be much more than that. So it's actually a different way of looking at the world. So if you're using it as a communication technique, if you're using it without the intention of actually connecting, it doesn't really work. Mm-hmm. But when you combine the intent with some of the, you can call them steps. I don't really even consider them steps any longer. They're more just awarenesses that we have, different ways of looking at the world, that it allows you to stay connected with people. Mm-hmm. And if you're connected, it's very difficult to be violent. Mm-hmm. So in other words, in order for violence to occur, we have to disconnect from each other first. Mm-hmm. So that's where names and labels and judgments come in. So, it can be the axis of evil, it can be terrorists, it can be whatever you want to call it, know. But we do that first. Once that's done and we're separate, then we can be violent. Mm-hmm. So the concept is based on that understanding, and then how do we stay connected at the heart?
Mm-hmm. I love that description of it. Thank you, Norman. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, I'm sure our listeners are, what brought you to this these steps, this way of communicating? I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but you're actually teaching it and you're immersed in it. So what brought you to this? I understand you're not from Canada, too. You're from the States, right?
Yes, yeah. I am from the States.
Maybe you can give us a little bit about your background.
Yes. Well, at the time I got involved in nonviolent communication, it was back around 1996. So I've been involved quite a while. At the time, I was living in Sedona, Arizona, and I was a mediator. My wife at the time and I were both mediators. And we were doing work for the courts in Flagstaff. And we received something in the mail from our, I wouldn't call it a boss because we're independent, but our supervisor, I guess, up in Flagstaff, just announcing a meeting we're going to get together and kind of connect again and go over things that were going on. And in addition, there was a little flyer about an introduction to nonviolent communication. And so we assumed that it was kind of like a job requirement to go to this.
Smart man.
And in actuality, it was just a favor she was offering a friend of hers by sending this out. So my wife and I went to it, and it was just the two of us. We were the only two people who showed up. And there were two people there offering it, and all they had was a videotape of Marshall. And they were just so anxious. They were so excited. They couldn't hold back just their desire to share this. Yeah. And so we sat through this, and it was a bit uncomfortable because there was so much attention on us and wanting to answer any questions we had. And but Marshall was coming into town the very next day and going to be speaking in the evening. So we decided after seeing the videotape we'd come back and see Marshall in person. And we came back, and it wound up, it was at the Unity Church there in Flagstaff, and the house was packed. It was overflowing with people waiting to see him.
Wow.
And he was late. And people were getting up and starting to leave, and someone from Tucson started trying to share nonviolent communication, and my wife and I were ready to get up ourselves. And Marshall walked in, and the whole energy just changed.
Okay.
And we were dumbstruck at that point. After listening to Marshall and how he presented his concepts and how the world could be, and that it was just amazing. And we dropped everything. We went home, dropped everything, and got the dog taken care of, and spent 3 days at a retreat with him up in Payson. It was just like that.
Incredible.
And from then on, it was like he came to Sedona and Flagstaff a couple of times a year, and we helped bring him in, and we started practice groups and went to 10-day international intensives and slowly started having it become part of our life.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So now it's completely, you're up here in Canada, and you're married again with a new woman.
Yes.
Who's extraordinary, and I'd love to have her on in the future on this show. And you're spreading the word up here in Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me just take this opportunity to let our listeners know they're listening to The Alternatives. You have choices. I'm your host, Ilya Kavukis. My guest here is Norman Passwalk. And you're listening to 99.1 FM CIDI here in Brome, Missisquoi. And we're talking about nonviolent communication. There's going to be a workshop being held at the Sunshinecenter on the 21st of January, and talking from 9 to 5 in the morning. We're going to be talking about nonviolent communication and how it can help your interactions with people and even with yourself. The host of the workshop is Gina Sensoise, and her website, you can go and find her, called embodyingempathy.com. And her husband is here today to share with us the information and make you aware of these wonderful things happening in the townships. So, Norman, what is the essence of nonviolent communication, also known as NVC?
The essence of nonviolent communication is the concept that everything we do or say is an attempt to meet a need. Those needs are universal needs. They're the needs that we all have, and they have no connection with particular strategies. In other words, it doesn't mean that a need has any other person involved that has to be involved. So most disagreements occur at the level of strategy. So with nonviolent communication, we learn to look behind the words and the actions of people and ourselves, and to connect with what need are they trying to meet in that moment. Whether the strategy is working or not doesn't make any difference. The point is they're trying to meet